Some journeys are marked by distance, others by emotion. The Blue Voyage along Turkey's southwestern coast is not a trip you measure in kilometers. It's one you measure in size, in stillness, in sun-warmed silence. It's not just about sailing. It's about surrendering to the sea, to time, and to the slow rhythm of the waves. It's about waking with the sun and sleeping under stars. It's about letting go. In Turkey, the Blue Voyage isn't a luxury. It's a way of remembering how to feel. They call it Mavi Yolculuk, the Blue Voyage. The name itself feels like a poem. It describes the traditional Gulet cruises that glide along the Aegean and Mediterranean coasts, threading their way through hidden bays, pine-scented coves, and quiet ancient ruins crumbling gently into the sea. Most journeys begin in the harbors of Bodrum, Marmaris, Göcek, or Fethiye. But the real beginning happens later. The moment you hear the boat's ropes loosen, the engine softens into the background, and the land begins to drift away behind you. Suddenly, you're floating. The sea stretches out in all directions, not blank, but full. Full of mystery, full of stories. The sky mirrors it so perfectly that the horizon disappears. You are nowhere. You are everywhere. There's something deeply comforting about life on a Gulet, those classic wooden sailing boats that carry you through the voyage. Their curved lines and rich timber carry whispers of older times, even as they offer modern comforts. But it's not about luxury. It's about simplicity. You wake with the sun. No alarms. Just the scent of salt, the gentle rocking beneath your body, and the distant call of gulls. You rise slowly, stretching under a sky already painted in peach and rose, and walk barefoot to the deck, where a table waits with fresh bread, olives, cheese, tomatoes, and tea that's still steaming. Breakfast feels like a sacred ritual here. No rush, no noise. Just the sound of spoons in glass and the soft chatter of other travelers, voices low, like they're trying not to disturb the peace the sea has offered. Then the anchor lifts, and the boat moves again, gently, almost imperceptibly. Another cove awaits. Time melts on the Blue Voyage. There are no schedules, no timetables, no set paths. You drift from one crystalline bay to the next, guided only by weather, instinct, and the captain's quiet experience. You stop when the water looks especially inviting, which is often. You swim in water, so clear it feels like swimming through light. You dive from the edge of the boat into silent blue. You float on your back, eyes closed, listening only to your breath and the quiet lapping of the sea. Sometimes, you anchor by a crescent-shaped beach where no footprints mark the sand. You step ashore, barefoot and smiling, to explore pine forests that smell of sap and sunlight, or ancient ruins where carved stones lay tangled in wildflowers. Other times, you don't leave the boat at all. You lie in the shade of the canopy, reading a book that you barely touch, distracted by the hypnotic motion of the water. You nap. You dream. You stare at the horizon and forget to think. This is how days pass on a Blue Voyage, not in hours, but in sensations. Sunsets at sea are different. They're not something you watch, they're something you feel. You sense the shift in temperature, the hush in the air, the way everyone starts speaking a little more softly. Even the sea seems to pause, as if paying respect. The sky ignites, oranges and gold spilling across the surface of the water. The boat is bathed in warm light. You sit with a drink in hand, barefoot and windswept, watching as the world softens. Dinner is served under the stars. Maybe it's freshly grilled fish with lemon, or tender vegetables cooked in olive oil and herbs. The air smells of thyme and wood smoke. Conversations are unhurried. Laughter floats easily into the darkness. Sometimes someone brings out a guitar. Sometimes there's music. But more often, there's just the soft clink of glasses, the low murmur of voices, and the sound of the sea. Always the sea. And later, when the lanterns are dimmed and only the moon remains, you lie on the deck and look up. There are more stars than you ever knew existed. The boat creaks softly beneath you, and the night air smells of salt and pine. You are far from everything, and yet you feel completely at home. One of the quiet joys of the Blue Voyage is that you often don't know exactly where you are. Sure, you pass familiar coastlines. Perhaps you anchor near a village whose name you recognize. But the real magic happens in unnamed bays, in little islands that don't appear on maps, in coves known only to fishermen and sailors. There's something freeing about not knowing. You stop seeing places as dots on a map and start seeing them as moments. That bay where you swam with turtles. That beach where you found a perfect shell. That ridge where you stood and watched the horizon blur into sky. This is not a sightseeing trip. It's a soul-sighting one. Though much of the voyage is spent in quiet solitude or peaceful company, there are occasional encounters that linger in memory. A fisherman pulling up beside your boat to sell fresh sea bream, his hands weathered, his smile wide. A family waving from the shore as they prepare a barbecue on the beach. A shepherd guiding goats along a rocky slope above a cove, both of you nodding and greeting from your separate worlds. Sometimes you anchor near another Gulet, and for a few hours the sea feels like a floating village. Laughter skipping from one boat to another, children splashing between decks, cooks exchanging spices or stories. And then, as the sun dips again, the boats drift apart, each carrying its own gentle solitude into the night. The most surprising part of the Blue Voyage isn't what you see, it's what you remember. Long after you return to land, long after the tan fades and the scent of salt has left your hair, something of the journey stays with you. It's in the way you pause before answering a question. It's in the way you look out the window, remembering a certain shade of blue. It's in the way your breathing slows when you think of silence. Because on the Blue Voyage, something shifts. The noise inside your head quiets. The urgency softens. You remember what it's like to just be. You remember the value of stillness. Once you've sailed the Blue Voyage, you understand something unspoken. The sea doesn't ask you to conquer it. It asks you to listen, to let go, to let it carry you, not to a destination, but to yourself. And the Turkish coast, with its hidden coves and ancient secrets, offers the perfect setting for this kind of surrender. It doesn't shout. It doesn't show off. It simply exists, quietly beautiful, waiting for you to come closer. So if life ever feels too loud, if your soul feels cramped or your thoughts feel tangled, remember this. There is a boat somewhere, gently rocking in a quiet bay. There is a place where the only plan is to follow the sun. There is a voyage that takes you nowhere and brings you back to everything. All you have to do is step aboard.